Welcome back. Today we are going to quickly talk about the Moondrop Lan. And I will kind of begin by saying I do like this one a lot. I think it's actually pretty well done. I think it actually is a better version of the Chew. But do I think tons of people are going to go out there and buy it and grab it after it's been so long? It's really what people wanted very soon after the Chew, and it came out, almost a year too late. So well done, but probably a little bit not enough and too late and a little too expensive. But the build, of course, is actually very, very nice. It's nice shells. They're actually weighty. Cable is decent, and of course, what they added are the removable 2-pin connectors, which is what Chew was really missing. So, yeah, I think it's actually kind of a well done set. But this is really the heart of it. Is you either have a set that is very, very close to it, or you've heard sets that are very, very close to it, but you can kind of go down the recent set. Chew, EW100, Zero, these are all very, very similar to what Lan does. And I do think that, at least on the graph, I do think Moondrop did adjust these 2 bits. I think they did lower the upper mid just a little bit, and that crazy thing, that harshness that Chew had out here, I think they did actually address that as well. Maybe it's just a shell, but it's probably the same driver with just a shell or a different damper. I do think they made a small adjustment that did make this one a little more appealing. And I think that's probably why I like the Lan a little more than I like the Chew. I think they just lost the harshness that the Chew had. And bass-wise, they're all kind of splitting hairs here. Whether the Chew was at the bottom and I think Zero was right above it, Lan is above that, and these are probably all within 1 decibel of each other, so not a whole lot difference there. But for those of you not familiar with these sets, they are the upper mid focus sets. A lot of the sound is right here. Female vocals, upper mids, pin a gain. This set is for the people who really, really enjoy that part of music. And they bring this down to a level that makes it very, very clean, just enough bass to make it sound passable. And, that really supports this whole area here. And again, here, I think this is where the brand sort of tweaked this. Chew really boosted this to give it a lot of air, which wasn't so good because it made it harsh. Zero actually moved the peak in, which was actually a better move. And I think Lan just brings it down. I think that was also a good move. So, but again, for the most part, you guys are going to be listening to this part of your track. That's where the focus is, and that's pretty much what it sounds like. So let's quickly go through some bullet points. And I do think the good is what I just mentioned. You already heard this set in a different driver flavor. They changed the driver on this one, or said they changed the driver. And it's just a slight variation on what the Chew was. And it's definitely a side grade to a set that you already have. If you have a Chew, or you have a Zero, or even a E100P, which is a more recent one. And you're going to spend a bit more for that brand loyalty. The girl on the cover, the cable, and all these things ended up costing you about twice as much as the Chew. So yeah, you're paying quite a bit for that brand loyalty and the metal build on this one. That being said, I do think it is a well-executed version of this upper mid-focus signature on a nice driver. There's not really any faults to it. I think they fixed some of the faults that were in Chew, but it really still doesn't really stand out as much as it really should for $40 at this point in time. But where it does stand out, I think some of the other $40 sets sounded like $40 and on a $200 app. And I think this one does scale just a little bit better. That cleaner bass shelf, they brought down that treble a little bit. I think the balance that they added actually did work in its favor for Lan, and I think it does really allow the driver to be heard, and it does really have, especially with a really nice DAC amp. I don't. It's really hard to say whether they really did anything or it's just how the shelf fits in my ear. I don't think the tuning changed a whole lot. It changed enough to be at least noticeable on the graph, but I do get why some people are saying it's a better version, and I think most of it is it just sounds better where you're expecting some of the performance things to be, some of the technicals to be, and some of the resolution and detail and speed. I think all those things actually come through on this shell without some of those harsh bits that Chew had. Now, Chew, as I'm kind of saying, I think Chew is probably right there. This just makes it easier to hear, so may not be a huge upgrade, but it's just easier to hear the better parts of your really expensive gear. So not for the bass fans, like I said. It's really hard not to like the transparent female vocals. So that's the trade-off, right? They brought down the bass to make everything so clean. Real focus on those female vocals. They do sound very detailed, very transparent, a little cooler in tone. It's actually a very likable sound if that's what you're into. Similar to Chew, minus that harsh, like I said. Still grounded in the upper mids, like I said. Less bright, more natural. But the downside is other $40 sets will do male vocals better. And that's sort of the downside of this upper mid focus tuning, is it brought down and thinned out some of the lower mids, so those don't sound as good. But it definitely sounds better if you put micropore tape on it, on the vent, just to add more low end and balance and fun. Still not a hard slamming set, but at least passable, and you don't really have to skip all of your lower bassier tracks. And this is what it looks like with some micropore. So you're getting a good 4 dB right there where it needs it, and that kind of puts you right into where Cadenza and C3 and some of those other $40 sets that were out recently are on the sub bass. So that's how I put micropore tape on it the first day I got it. Never took it off except to measure it, but that is how I would definitely listen to Lan. I'd say it's still less bright than the Chew, and I think the stage is better for the same reason. I think they just smooth out the rough points that really closed in and flattened out the stage on that harshness, and I think everything sounds a little better on the Lan. But they're not as good, like I said. You already have a similar set. While I like this one, it's just a side grade to so many other sets, and the bass level is a little bit genre limiting without the mod, and not many people willing to pay twice as much money for a bit of refinement, even without the spring tips and with a removable cable. I think the value proposition not quite there on Lan. So that's what I got on this one. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.